Ice Cube is speaking out against Oprah and teaming up with Tucker Carlson to expose Diddy's connection to Jeffrey Epstein. The dark secrets of Hollywood are finally being exposed, and Oprah is at the center of everything, controlling everything from within the shadows. Ice Cube isn't just coming up with accusations, he has proof to back up everything he says, and Oprah is coming after his career because of it.
Once again, they had the whole cast on, but I wasn't invited, and so I don't know.
On Oprah's show.
Yeah, so I don't know what that's
But Oprah's obviously a saintly, godlike figure who's revered by all decent people. Why would she exclude you?
I really don't know. You know, that's something that I would love to find out. But I can't tell you, you know, if there's a single thing that I've done or said to her.
Have you noticed that it is more controversial to criticize Oprah than to burn the American flag?
Really?
Seems that way. I've never heard anybody criticize Oprah.
Jeffrey Epstein, P. Diddy, what do you think is going to happen with all that now?
I knew a lot of people who knew Jeffrey Epstein, like a lot. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, thank God. I certainly knew a lot of people who knew him, and like a lot, like more than 10. Jeffrey Epstein was not considered like some far out sinister figure in the world that I lived in. I mean, I'm just being totally honest about this. He was like this kind of interesting guy who had this kind of rotating salon at his house off Fifth Avenue in New York, and there was always the Israeli prime minister and former presidents and like just interesting people, you know? I did not understand what that was about at all. And so when he died, I was like, oh, poor guy, he killed himself in prison. And then I got a call from his brother, just randomly. And his brother said, you know, he did not commit suicide. I was really shocked by that. And I thought, maybe his brother's crazy. So this set off a multi-year journey for me that really changed my views about a lot of different things. And the bottom line is Jeffrey Epstein was murdered, and not only murdered, but he was murdered in the most secure federal lockup in Midtown Manhattan, in the country. And so what is that? What is that? Think about that for a minute.
Ice Cube claims that the mainstream media has been weaponized to silence him, labeling him dangerous and unhinged simply for speaking the truth. He says Oprah and her inner circle have deep ties with major media corporations, allowing them to bury stories, protect predators, and blacklist anyone who dares to speak out. These gatekeepers are deeply embedded within the elite circles of Hollywood, and according to Ice Cube, they operate like a secret society, rewarding silence and punishing truth. Speak out, and you're not just risking backlash, you're risking your life.
Well, but I've been shut out. You know, some platforms will not have me on.
Why?
They don't like that I'm, you know, an independent thinker. I'm not part of the herd. I'm not part of the go along to get along gang, so to speak. So, you know, I'm an outsider. And so, you know, I'm not part of the club. So I have to go places for one that I'm welcome, and where I can voice my opinion without somebody, you know, saying I'm a bad person and that they never want to have me on their platform again.
What platforms have banned you?
I've been, you know, I tried to go on The View. They didn't have me on The View.
Why?
Well, a few of the guests just really didn't like where I was coming from. So, or a few of the hosts, I mean. So that's what I was told by the producers. You know, I don't know if the producers was just copping out and using some of the hosts to not have me come on and explain myself, but...
You'd be a good booking for them.
I've been on there before.
Yeah.
You know, it's just when I've became an independent thinker, when I've, you know, I'm not, you know, I don't follow their brand of politics, I guess.
But if you can't think for yourself, then you're not really free, are you?
No, you're not. You're not. But I've been excluded. I've been excluded on Oprah, you know.
On Oprah?
On Oprah, yeah, I've been excluded. Yeah, man.
I would think you'd be the person Oprah would want to promote. I mean, you grew up in South Central, you were successful at a young age, you have dignity, you say what you think. Like, I thought that was the goal.
From actors and musicians to journalists and whistleblowers, anyone who's tried to expose what's really going on behind the scenes has either been silenced, smeared, or mysteriously blacklisted. Ice Cube says that he was never part of this secret club. He's never played by their rules, never attended their parties, and never relied on them to build his legacy. In a TikTok video, Ice Cube addressed these gatekeepers, directly telling them that they know who they are and what they have done. The video sent shockwaves through social media, with fans and speculating about who he was really calling out. Ice Cube didn't name names at the time, but just a few weeks later, he directly mentioned Oprah as the ringleader.
Yo, what's cracking? You know what it is. It's your homeboy Ice Cube. And some of you may not have realized that I'm not part of the club. And a lot of you listening to me right here, right now, you're not part of the club either. And what I realized with the club is what makes them so mad is when you don't want to be a part of their club. That pisses them off. What club am I talking about? I'm talking about the club of gatekeepers that we all got to deal with. You know who they are, and they definitely know who they are. A lot of people would be like, what, who? Come on, man, stop playing. So, ever since I put out the contract with Black America, you know they've been with me. Here and there, this and that. But it's cool, you know. I expect that.
Diddy was a pawn in the hands of these elites, and when he outlived his utility, they got rid of him. Ice Cube says that Diddy and Epstein were both targeted. Diddy was protected, elevated, and untouchable for years, as long as he played by their rules. But the moment he tried to grow bigger than what they allowed, they turned on him. Diddy went from being the most successful Black artist to being in jail in less than a year. Ice Cube insists that both men were pawns to be used, discarded, and ultimately sacrificed to distract from the deeper corruption that still remains untouched.
Diddy, you're hearing Diddy everywhere, okay?
Yeah.
So, did you ever have any kind of run-in with Diddy? Did you ever do anything with Diddy? Any projects you worked on with him?
He produced a few records, or had his producers do a few records on my War and Peace album, the Peace Disc. Yeah.
How was he to work with?
It was cool. You know, he gave us great music. We flew out to New York, and I was mainly in the studio with the producer. You know, he had a stable of producers, so I was in the studio with his stable of producers, and I think we did some great music. And you know, I really kind of, lost contact with him and really stopped, dealing with Puffy around 94. Yeah.
Any specific reason?
Yeah, I mean, they was doing their thing, I was doing mine. And, I'm not the partying type. You know what I mean? I ain't never been to a Diddy party. I ain't never really wanted to go. But I don't go to a lot of people parties. That just ain't what I'm in it for.
According to Cube, Diddy's downfall wasn't a random act of justice. It was a calculated move by the very people who once shielded him. Just like Jeffrey Epstein, Cube believes Diddy was used to serve the interests of the elite, and when things got too messy or too public, they cut him loose to protect themselves. This was Diddy's mistake. He was too loud. Diddy had been going on TV shows and naming everyone who was at his parties. He said the silent part out loud too many times.
Are you surprised at what things are coming out with Diddy at all, or you're like, you have no idea? It's none of my business. You'll live longer. Kind of like the mindset.
I'm surprised. How could you be surprised with anything that happens in hip hop? It's hip hop is the Wild West. So you're gonna have the good, you're gonna have the bad, you're gonna have the ugly.
You think he's being targeted, or some of the stuff he's got, there's credibility on what they're coming after him with the tapes and the feds and raiding his Miami home, his LA home?
I believe he's being targeted.
You believe he's being targeted?
Yeah. I believe, somebody, has the power to pull the trigger to make you know, this stuff, this domino effect happened.
Okay. All right. So you think he's being targeted. So you don't think, Shook said, you can say what you want about Diddy, but Diddy didn't learn to like young boys. He learned it from a man named Clive Davis. He threw Clive Davis in there. It doesn't sound like you're part of that camp. You're part of the camp that you think he's being targeted.
You know, I don't know enough to even be able to be specific on any of this stuff. It's just all speculation. I just know he was cool up until a point, and then this stuff started happening. So I believe somebody, you know, like I said, yo, he's our new guy. We on this year or whatever.
Diddy and Epstein are two peas in the same pod. Both men were surrounded by luxury, power, and influence. Both were accused of using that power to exploit others behind closed doors. And both were protected by a web of elites who covered up their crimes. Private jets, secret parties, celebrity guest lists, sealed court documents. It's the same story every time.
I mean, everybody hung with Diddy. That's the other tricky thing. Like, Diddy hung out with everybody. And I've spoken to a bunch of people who are like, yo, great dude, like, always there for you, never asked for a single thing.
Till 1 a.m.
And then freak off.
Everybody says, get out of the house.
Yeah.
It's like the gremlins start eating after midnight. Everybody who tells the stories like, I saw her go upstairs and these dudes are fucking like right on the couch.
Yeah.
And then I go in this room and these guys are fucking, and it's like,
yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. And that's the other thing. Like, I wonder, like, is that just a power thing?
it's a Caligula thing.
What does that mean?
Caligula, like the emperor. Did you ever see that movie, Caligula?
No.
It's about just Roman empires being completely out of control. Caligula was like almost like porn, and it was a movie made, I want to say, in the 70s. It's a crazy movie. But it's just detailing extreme excess where you can never fill the hole.
But what is the hole you need to fill? Like, I'm trying to find, like, what's the
Just
catalyst?
chaos. What year was this? 79. Yeah. That's Malcolm McDowell, right? Yeah. Yeah, the dude from Clockwork Orange.
Oh, yeah.
It's a crazy movie, man.
But
and it's still mild in comparison to what Absolute have. Absolute power corrupts. Caligula.
Okay, so then there's the question. It's like, can you take a completely normal person, give them power, and then they become that? Or does it take a power-hungry person that has this void that needs to be filled, and then when they are given that power, you see the worst version of them?
Ask your CIA boy. I bet he's got the answers. I bet he knows the exact formula.
The only difference between Diddy and Epstein is that Diddy managed to get away. Allegedly, this case was never about Diddy. It was always about getting access to the tapes Diddy had, and once the elites found those, they didn't care if Diddy got away. Ice Cube and others believe the federal raids, the sudden media frenzy, and even the carefully crafted narrative around Diddy's case were all part of a larger operation.
Bit of a commotion outside the courthouse. Sean Combs' mother just returned here. She walked in just a second ago, said she is feeling good because her son was acquitted of the most serious charges that he faced, both of which could have sent him to prison for life. He was convicted, though, of transportation to engage in prostitution, and that charge could put him in prison for up to 20 years, although it's not expected he would get that much time. What we're waiting for now is the judge to decide whether Combs can be released on bail while he awaits his sentencing. He offered to put up $1 million. He put up his homes in Miami and Los Angeles. They're certainly opulent. The jury, the judge, everybody saw pictures of them. And the judge said he would convene a hearing later this afternoon to determine if Combs should be released.
But there's a big question as to where he's going to go. Some people think he's going to go to a minimum security facility, and other people say he's not eligible. And I agree, because it's a crime.
Prosecutors, they said in their filing yesterday that it's a crime of violence. We'll see how it goes down when it goes to sentencing. But
you know what? Hold on. I know we're out. We don't have a lot of time. Here's something nobody's pointed out. That judge could hit him what's called relevant conduct, where they could actually sentence and enhance him for things that he either was acquitted of, found not guilty of, based on the conduct of what he did. So he may get more time.
Oh, the judge has a lot of discretion here. You know, there's no minimum. Max is 10. There's been talk about would he even go past the guidelines, because you're talking about multiple instances of transportation to engage in prostitution and two victims.
Relevant conduct allows the judge to do that.
Right.
The defense will say he abused his discretion, but he really didn't, because the judge has all the discretion he wants.
That's 100%. That's why he's going to need as much information from a pre-investigation report. Let me ask you this. If he goes to prison, if he's sentenced to prison, he was acquitted of racketeering. He was acquitted of trafficking, but he was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution. Does he walk in a king, or does he walk in a pariah? How do other inmates look at him if he was acquitted?
You know what? He was acquitted on some charges.
Yeah.
People win. I mean, on multiple counts, people sometimes get things dismissed all the time. Fact is, he's no better than anyone else. He's a convicted felon. But what he's going to face is all these people are going to be sucking up to him because of who he is and thinking that he could do something to further their career.
We have a big update right now. Remember how we were just saying this is the best possible outcome for the defense? Combs agrees and the defense agrees. Combs, after being led out by marshals, as he was being led out, he knelt down in front of his chair and bowed his head down as if he was praying. When he stood up, he faced the gallery and he began to clap, prompting the gallery to clap and cheer. Combs' attorneys, they all exchanged hugs, and the gallery continued to cheer for him. I mean, what a moment in that courtroom.
Diddy managed to beat a federal case, and according to growing rumors online, it wasn't luck or a brilliant legal team that saved him. It was a deal. Whispers in the industry suggest that Diddy struck a behind-the-scenes agreement with the elites. In exchange for his freedom, he allegedly handed over the one thing they truly wanted: evidence. The same evidence he had been using as protection for years: tapes, documents, names, and connections.
This is shocking. This was an enormous defeat for prosecutors. The 3 big charges, which is why they prosecuted him in the first place, the jury acquitted Diddy.
They only found him guilty on what we knew all along were the easiest things to find him guilty of. That was the transportation for purposes of prostitution, the Mann Act.
Which is sending a prostitute across state lines. Happens every day.
We knew before the trial started he was guilty of those.
They never would have filed these charges if it were just that. This undeniably is an enormous embarrassment for prosecutors, and it really underscores what Mark Agnifilo was saying, that they tried to make it about baby oil and Astroglide and all that other stuff. And the jury,
but you can't ignore the fact that they looked through also Cassie's emotional testimony, pregnant Cassie testifying,
and didn't
wasn't
buy
enough.
it.
It wasn't enough.
Didn't buy it. It is undeniably a victory for Diddy, even though he's going to spend time in prison, it would seem.
Today's a great victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens. And we had a wonderful jury. They listened to every word, and they got the situation right, or certainly right enough. They acquitted him of the sex trafficking, which he was absolutely innocent of. They acquitted him of the racketeering conspiracy that he was absolutely innocent of, and all of the components to it. The kidnapping, he was innocent of that. The arson, he was innocent of that. The obstructing justice, he was innocent of that. And that is no longer just me saying that. That is the verdict of our jury.
And after nearly a 2-month trial with 34 witnesses and hours of salacious testimony, a jury of 8 men and 4 women finds Sean Diddy Combs not guilty of racketeering and sex trafficking but guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. The judge is currently deciding right now whether Combs will actually be released today. His defense arguing that since the music mogul was acquitted of the most serious crimes, he should be able to go home. Once court was adjourned, family members cheered today's verdict. Combs' son, Christian, telling ABC News how happy he is.
Hey, yo, we love y'all. We love everybody watching. So happy. Pop's coming home. God bless. God bless the whole world.
What was going through your head when the verdict was read? Happy.
Despite the not guilty verdict, Diddy still isn't off the hook. The judge has denied his bail, meaning that Diddy is going to stay in jail until his sentencing in October. Right now, Diddy is facing 20 years in prison, and if the judge decides, he can increase that number to a life sentence. Judge Arun doesn't have to follow the federal guidelines. This has left many speculating whether the judge is planning to make an example out of Diddy.
Sean Diddy Combs has been denied bail after the verdict in his sex trafficking case, and here's how he took the news. According to NBC News reporters in the courtroom, Combs appeared, quote, deflated as his hopes of going home were seemingly dashed as his lawyers attempted to convince Judge Aaron Subramanian to release their client ahead of his sentencing. In his ruling, Subramanian cited Combs' years-long pattern of violence as a reason for him to remain behind bars, adding that he continues to be a danger to others and unable to follow the law, arguing that Combs, who pleaded not guilty to sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, force, fraud, or coercion, as well as transportation to engage in prostitution, was acquitted on the 3 most serious charges of sex trafficking and racketeering and only convicted of prostitution-related offenses. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo insisted he should be released on appropriate conditions. As Agnifilo outlined, Combs would be willing to put up a $1 million cash bond co-signed by his mom Janice Combs, his sister Keisha Combs, and Sarah Chapman, the mother of Combs' eldest daughter Chance Combs, and have no access to his private plane, which is currently grounded in Maui. He also agreed to surrender his passport, undergo drug testing, and restrict travel to areas of New York, Florida, and California as necessary to attend court and meet with lawyers.
Bro, you got to realize you got people like Prince Harry. Prince Harry was at a Diddy party. You got some of the same Universal executives. Diddy made it cool for, I'm just gonna say it like this, man, whites to hang out with the hood dudes. Dude from the hood, he made it cool and safe for them to hang out with the white executives. They used them for that. They used them enough, whereas that now you got white executives doing Diddy-like parties. Remember the dude from, Frantic? The clothing line, the sports line? They was mad because they didn't get invites to his party because he was doing white parties, doing parties like Diddy. Now, I ain't talking about the freak-off party part of it, but I'm just saying, he was doing those parties and everybody, there was rappers, or I think Stephen A. Smith said something about he was upset that he didn't get no invite. So it was those parties that everybody want to be at. So Diddy have on tape, he taped everything. He taped everything and taped everybody.
If Diddy gets out, everyone who testified against him is in danger. Cassie's lawyer has asked the court to keep Diddy in custody while he waits for his sentencing, arguing that Diddy poses a risk to her and other witnesses. In a letter to Judge Arun Subramanian, attorney Douglas Wigdor said that Cassie was scared Diddy would come after everyone who testified against him, including herself.
Cassie Ventura writes a letter to the judge asking for him to deny Diddy's bail. calling Diddy a danger to all of the witnesses. The judge just said at 5 o'clock he will make his determination on whether he's going to let Diddy walk free today while he's waiting to be sentenced on his 2 counts of prosta. And now Cassie Ventura is the second person to write a note saying that Diddy is dangerous and she doesn't believe that he should be let out on bail while he's waiting for sentencing. Cassie Ventura's lawyer wrote this letter on her behalf to respectfully request that the court deny Mr. Combs to be released pending his sentencing trial. They cite the law, the Bail Reform Act, that says detention is mandatory post-conviction on these charges, and Cassie Ventura believes that Mr. Combs is likely to pose a danger to the victims who testified in this case, including herself as well as the community. We thank the court for its time and attention to this matter. Now I'll be on the lookout if we have any other notes from witnesses that testified against Diddy, because this is a big deal. The judge will take these into consideration on if he's going to grant Diddy's bail. Still waiting on the government's letter as well, so this is why the judge said he'll reconvene at 5 p.m.
Everybody in the industry is waiting for Diddy's sentencing. They want to see if Diddy is really going to get away from everything. Some insiders believe he's protected, that his connections and alleged deal with the elites will shield him from real consequences. Others are convinced the judge will throw the book at him to make an example. Either way, the stakes are higher than ever.
Aaron, we know that sentencing hearing scheduled for the fall. Sean Diddy Combs has already been in custody for about 9 months now, and he's also facing dozens of civil lawsuits. What more does he have ahead of him before that hearing? We know, I think it's on October 3rd.
October 3rd at 10 a.m. is when Sean Combs is going to be sentenced for his conviction on 2 counts of transportation for the purposes of prostitution. Each of those counts carries a maximum penalty of up to 10 years. And so prosecutors pointed out in their letter to the judge his total exposure is 20 years in prison. And the judge today, Whit, said that Combs's propensity for violence was starkly depicted on that 2016 hotel security camera footage that may well factor into the judge's sentencing decisions. In the meantime, Sean Combs will continue to be incarcerated at MDC in Brooklyn, the federal jail in Brooklyn, where he's been since his arrest.
If you've made it this far, you know this goes deeper than one man. Like, comment, and share to keep the story alive. What do you think? Is Ice Cube telling the truth? Did Diddy really cut a deal with the elites? Let us know your thoughts below.